Well, welcome to another Guns Contractors video. Bit of a simple one today. Got a stump to remove. This is an ex-paperbark maple, which is a lovely looking tree, and there's a few others around, dotted around this area as well. But sadly this one got diseased and died, so not ideal. They're very expensive. So anyway, the stump must come out, and I thought I'd talk you through how I like to go about stumping. So not exact science this, to be honest, and you never know how these things are going to go until you actually do it. Generally, the rule of stumping is the bigger the machine that you can get at it, the better. But we've had so much rain recently, I daren't take the 3CX on this lawn. It would absolutely destroy what little is left. And I'm actually sat in this 3-tonner. I'm sat on track mats myself to just try and, you know, make the job a little bit neater, just to try and save some of the ground, because we are probably going to have to get quite aggressive with this. It's a decent sized stump. It's probably 450 in diameter, 18 inches to our friends across the pond, and that's not a massive stump. I mean, this is by no means going to be as impressive as Let's Dig's stumping videos. That man pulls some trees out, but this is a decent sized stump for a little mini digger like this. So trying to work neat here. I'm just stripping the grass around the area, just so I've got half a chance of piecing it back in and not making it, you know, the thing look like a complete bomb site at the end. So my plan with all stumps is you just got to keep working them. I'm confident, and I've always said that you can get any stump out with any excavator, but it just takes a bit longer. And I think you could get a huge tree down with a micro digger if you had the time that you wanted to put into it. So we'll strip a little bit of grass around it, just enough really to be able to get round the main bit of the stump and attack the roots. I always think it helps to understand different types of tree and the type of root system they have on them. You know, but those of us who aren't expert horticulturalists, you have lateral roots that run around the outside of a stump of a tree. Now they'll extend out quite a long way. I mean, they probably go under that hedge. They no doubt do on a tree like this. But you know that those can stay there really. They provide a lot of wind support, and they're doing a lot of help to get like moisture into the tree. That's what they're there for. They're fairly shallow and they're looking for moisture. Then you get the more the anchor roots, and they'll go down sort of at 45 degrees. Those are the trickier ones to get. They're a lot harder to get out, and they're the ones really that we're looking to attack. Now I've kind of screwed myself here because I haven't left myself enough room to put any arisings. We'll just push the turf out of the way a bit, so we're going to need some room to work this. And then you get tap roots. Now some trees don't have quite so big a tap roots as others, but essentially that's a root that goes almost vertically straight down. So they're the ones that are the hardest to get to, and often the ones that really anchor it into the ground. So we've got clay soil here. It's going to be a little bit of a fight, this one. But the tools in the arsenal that I've chosen, I've got my little 9-inch bucket. I'm just going to put my blade down because the problem with being on boards is the machine will pull itself towards the problem instead of anchoring itself. So I've got my 9-inch bucket. I'm just going to do some preliminary digging with this. I'm not looking really to be smashing through roots, but I mean, if it does that, then that's great. All I'm looking to do really is just remove some of the dirt around the problem and really kind of have a look and see what we've got. because what I'm expecting, and how stumps normally happen when you're digging them out with a little digger, not a 20 tonner, is that you'll find that there's about 4 or 5 key roots that will be almost like the unlocking code to this. In fact, it's very much like a bit of a quest. So you just got to dig around, I find, and sort of try and find where those main roots are. Some you'll pull through and they won't be a problem. This one's been cut down about, I don't know, 6 months now or so it won't have died by any means. But you know, we might have started to see some of the smaller roots dying off, and I mean, it did have a disease as well, so the chances are there's going to be a bit of rot down in places. So I'm just starting to remove this material around here, really, see if we can't expose. See, there's a big one at the back there. Just seem to sort of get rid of this stuff so that we can attack it with the next weapon. And the main weapon of all stumps is the ripper tooth. If you don't have a ripper tooth for your Mini, guys, you've got to get one, because it's been the most useful attachment I think I've ever bought. It's reduced the amount of time I use a breaker, because you can just get under lumps of concrete and you know, really start to make an impact on things, ripping up bits of tarmac. I use it for all sorts of jobs that aren't even anything really to do with digging. It's just such a handy hook, really, for a machine, and even on a fixed, you know, without the Encon, on a fixed hitch machine, I would have one. Well worth the investment, and I really recommend getting yourself a decent ripper for a machine. You can do an awful lot of work with them. On the Encon, they're absolutely fantastic, because you've just got so many options of angles you can get at and things. So yeah, really a really good attachment, and that's really the only other thing I'm going to use here. The idea being that I should be able to dig around it neatly with the little bucket, and if you don't have a ripper tooth, then the smallest bucket is the one you want to play with, ideally with teeth. I used to run a little 9-inch bucket with teeth on for stumping before I learnt about rippers, because the smaller the bucket, you know, you think, I've seen people trying to pull stumps out with grading buckets, and you just like, it's animal behaviour, isn't it? It's not going to do the bucket any good. You're putting an awful lot of twisting force on the hitch and the dipper. You can actually bend dippers like that, or twist them, but you're also putting, you know, the machine's force, it only puts out a set amount of force, doesn't it? And with a mini digger, you need as much help as you can get, and the smaller your bucket, the more concentrated that force is. So my top tips for stumping, if you don't have a ripper, pick the smallest bucket you can and work around it systematically. Now, I should, don't know for sure, but I should be able to dig this all from one position, because I've got the tilt rotator and I can get sort of behind stuff, which you can't do with a fixed, you know, the standard machine. So but previous to me having one of these, you know, I did used to work old school, and you just attack this. You can't attack it from the hedge side, but you'd attack it from as many angles as you possibly can, because the machine works best when it's pulling towards itself. Anyway, just getting some material around here, so you can see there's another one here. That's quite a big root there, I'd say. Yeah, that's one of our key players for sure. I very much look at this like lock picking. It's just how to unpick the stump, and the more you can expose those little keys, the quicker you'll come to it. So, don't know how long this is going to take. I won't film the whole thing, it'll be a very long and boring video, but I'll try and film key elements of it for you. Okay, so now we've got the ripper on, we can start really working out where these main roots are. And I got one here, it's a bit of a divider. And the great thing with the ripper is, even if you can't pull it up, you know, like this, and it's not getting it, you can work your way under it, and you can just pull that dirt away from it, because all of that clay and things is just giving it that little bit of purchase that maybe it needs to to survive. And you can work the machine back and forwards and make sure it's in the sweet spot. What I mean by that is the geometry of the machine. It doesn't pull very well at full extension, but it'll pull really well in its mid-stroke. You see, rams work best in the middle of their run, so that's why we managed to just pull that limb off there, and we couldn't when I was a bit closer. So it's about working the machine around to develop the most power, and just finding those little angles. And I literally just sort of run the ripper about and sort of find those positions where it just might get a bit of purchase. The other thing you can do is put the tooth halfway through the root. Sometimes you can actually split it in half just by a little bit of careful driving. This one is going to be tricky, I think. That's quite a big root there, so we'll leave that one for now and we'll come back to it. Again, it's all about unlocking this stuff. You've got to kind of work the angles, work the bits that you can get to. Obviously, none of this works when you've got buried surfaces around. So, there are times where you can't just go gung ho and just get in there with the ripper. But in this particular instance, I'm confident I haven't got anything around here, so it allows me to be a little bit more forceful than I otherwise might be if I was digging something out that was on top of a gas main, for example. So. Always bear in mind your situation. Just because there's a tree there doesn't mean to say that somebody 60 years before didn't put a water main under it or whatever. I also use the force of the digger. So as you curl the bucket round, you can sometimes use the ripper as a bit of a lever. Now you do have to be careful with the tilt rotator on, because it's got those hoses on the back of it. So I'm always cautious with that. Let's move the track back forward. That's just moved a bit. I'm always cautious with that, but you can gain quite a lot more leverage sometimes, especially when you've got a bucket on. If you use the power of the kind of levering of the hydraulics against the ground, the back of the bucket against the ground. And I find that works quite well. So this route here has clearly got a few friends that are coming up this way, which we're making some progress with, but not a huge amount. And people often say, the tilt rotator, I wouldn't have it on for stumping, and I've done a lot of stumping. In fact, I did a video on this very issue about, do you lose breakout force with a tilt rotator? And to an extent you sort of do, but look at the way you can manipulate this tool in places that you otherwise would not be able to do. And I find that's a huge advantage. So that root now, whilst it's not broken near the stump, I now know that it's broken up here. And then using it like that, look, we've just ripped it off. So I find it much more of an advantage than a disadvantage. And what you lose in pure breakout force, you seem to gain in leverage. So it works. Works for me. I've got a couple at the back here as well that are quite tight together. Again, you wouldn't get a bucket in there, but you see how I can use the back root to pull the front one out, and look at that, straight through it, because you're using the machine to its most effective. The ram will do an awful lot of twisting force through that hitch, but it doesn't have the weight behind it to hold the bucket in position. So using the ground or particularly other roots around to get at the one you're after can be a huge advantage. This one now, look, you see the digger will actually lift itself up on its own blade. She's got a bit of power behind her, but there's only so much you can do. So that root at the back is definitely one that needs a bit of further work. And that's really what I do. I just work my way around each route, trying to unlock as I go. And what I'll find is that the routes that are a problem at the moment, once you've unlocked a few others, will suddenly become the only thing left, and you'll find that you can get hold of them, and maybe they'll come out once all their friends have left the party. So just gotta work your way around, and eventually you'll end up where you can't really see anything because you've pulled a whole load of muck back in the hole, which will happen. And then I'll switch back to the bucket and do some more cleaning and try and dig down a bit deeper and see if I can't get to a. See, that was a good one. See if I can't get a few more exposed. So we're back on this front one again. So that one's moving at the front. I can just see it moving, but I can't get an angle on it, and it doesn't seem to want to split. You probably need a sharper tooth. You can sometimes run your tooth through it 3 or 4 times and sort of weaken it a bit. Try and get on top of it, but it is obviously the tooth is a bit rounded on my ripper now. It'll need a new tooth soon. I think that's an example of just how much I use it. It gets used for all sorts of things. The other thing you've got to be careful of when you're doing this job is ending up in a situation where the ripper suddenly pulls through a root and everything fires at you in the cab. That can be risky. But yeah, just got to be aware of that. And I guess some people say, well, put the window down. Well, I don't really like operating with the window down. On a day like this, you get loads of glare. And also the window is quite expensive to replace if a stone goes through it. Whereas if a stone, providing it doesn't go in my eye, if it hits me in the face, I'll feel a bit stupid, but I won't. Or if I get a load of mud in my face or whatever, it's not the worst thing, and I've not broken my window. So, and it makes your view better anyway. You just end up seeing the glare from my jumper otherwise. So that one's nearly going. We might be able to work a solution on that one, but she's just not quite. Oh, here she comes. There you go. So, a bit of an animalistic thing you can do is sort of hang the digger off it and just jolt it using the full weight of the machine to sort of like jolt it through. And yeah, we've managed to get that one out. So anyway, need to go for another dig. Now we've got to this stage, and then we can see what the next layer is of roots to smash out, because it looks like we've got the first few are down and through. Time for stage 2. Well, there you have it. She came out in one virtually. That was 2 cycles of digging round it, as you saw. You can see the main chunks of root that you end up with. They don't go all that far before they become quite fibrous and a lot smaller. This one doesn't have a tap root. So different trees have different things, but you often find that due to the wind, the tree will end up with roots in certain directions and not others. But yeah, that came out okay. It was a bit rotten down here, so that gave me a bit of an advantage, but some of those roots were still pretty strong. But the old 8026, I think, did me pretty proud there. So hopefully you've learned something, or it'd be interesting to see anyone else got any other techniques of how they go about doing this, because yeah, it's something that you often have to do with a digger, and more often than not I find I'm having to do it with a machine that's a little bit smaller than what I'd like. But anyway, we're sat on boards. This has been kept pretty clean. Got a little bit of reinstatement to do here, which we'll do in a minute, but not a bad time. And I don't know how long that took me, probably 20-25 minutes. So yeah, Probably got half an hour or so of reinstating, and the job will be done. Anyway, so if you enjoy this kind of content, this is what I do for a job. Quite lucky in a way, get to do what I love doing, and driving lovely bits of kit like this. So please keep watching, keep subscribing. Always welcome your thoughts in the comments, of course. You can follow me on Instagram, where you can also see what I get up to sort of day to day. I try and post stories and things on there. Anyway, thank you very much. I'll catch you in the next one.